It's the sequel to the 2003 film Freddy vs. Jason. This time we get the addition of Ash Williams, the hero from the Evil Dead Army of Darkness franchise. It's set 5 years after the events of Freddy vs. Jason, where at the end we see Jason coming out of Crystal Lake with Freddy's head. He puts Freddy's head into the shrine next to his mother's head, and it's freaking awesome. There's the artwork maybe a little bit choppy. That might be the only bad thing I have to say, a little choppy around the edges, but it's just such a well-written story. You could tell that the guys that wrote this were real fans of all these franchises and understood the characters. Get this. Ash one-liners versus Freddy Krueger one-liners. Does it get any better? These one-liners are written better than anything that Sam Raimi could do. It's really great. The content is gory and grotesque with crude humor. So crude that I can't even believe some of the things they say, that they wouldn't even put any of this stuff in film. So highly recommend it. It's a 6-issue miniseries. It had a sequel. I'm just focusing on the first miniseries that they did in 2007-2008. So it's set in the Crystal Lake area, set around Christmas time with a snowy setting. We get to see Jason killing Christmas carolers. But how it starts off with the two lead characters from Freddy vs. Jason, Laurie and Will, the main girl and her boyfriend. They end up going to Crystal Lake to the Voorhees cabin for closure, to see if they actually ended up killing Freddy and Jason, which obviously they didn't. Jason shows up, ends up killing them both in the opening scene. You think that they're going to be lead characters throughout this series, and you're like, oh, you didn't even see it coming. He even guts up Laurie. It's pretty good death. So then that pretty much sums up that. And Freddy starts to get inside Jason's dreams and get inside his head, so that he gets him the necronomicon book of the Evil Dead, and that's how it ties in with that, to bring Freddy back. And obviously it's a book of spells to do a lot of things. He calls them lines like McFag and get over here, you retarded, get your cancerous retarded noggin over here, and a lot of other great ones. If I went over it, I could just do a whole video just on Freddy Krueger one-liners and Ash one-liners that are actually funny this time compared to Army of Darkness. So Ash arrives at this new S-Mart. The Crystal Lake area is trying to forge a new identity, and you know how he's like a department store employee, so he gets transferred in there to like run that business during the holiday season because they're swamped. And he uses lines like, get your testicle-sized brains over here. And then he calls Jason Voorhees Wayne Gretzky. Wayne Gretzky. Wow. So then Ash finally gets the book at Jason's cabin before Jason's able to get it, and then Jason just takes it back to the store. So then Jason shows up at the S-Mart store, starts cracking skulls. It's a pretty good one. He's just killing people in the department store with Christmas ornaments up everywhere. So then later on, Freddy enters Ash's dreams, and his hand turns in, and you know how Ash cut off his arm or his hand? Well, that ends up turning into the Freddy claw hand. You're like, oh, it's a good one. And then they just have one-liners back and forth like yo mama jokes. And then he comes into the real world, and Freddy uses the book to resurrect Jason's old victims, and he gets Jason's old victims to turn on Jason because Jason's half retarded. Then he starts fighting Freddy for no reason. And then so eventually Freddy delivers the great line. The only people that are left, everyone else is dying from the department store and all the other employees. It's just Ash and this girl named Carrie. And Freddy's like, now give me my book, bitch, before I rip your guts out through your ass. And you're like, what? Just classic Freddy Krueger. And so what do they have to do? They have to read a passage to send Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees back to a different dimension, into a different portal. And they end up finally doing that and reading the passage. The girl ends up reading it, even though, you know, the most challenging thing she's probably ever read was like the Grapes of Wrath in high school or something. And so then she reads the passage, which is in a different language, and then they get warped into the Crystal Lake, which is frozen over. That's where the last final battle takes over. You never really get a good fight between Freddy versus Jason. It's more Ash versus Jason, and Jason killing up random locals than Ash versus Freddy. And so then they get transported back to the portal, and it shows them like for the ending, like frozen underneath the lake on their way, getting warped. So I don't know what happens in the next series, but that's how the first one ends. I give this comic book miniseries an A, maybe an A-. If it was perfect artwork, it probably could have been upwards towards an A+, but credit goes to the guys that did this. They obviously understood the characters. It's super entertaining. I recommend getting the whole collection. I'm sure you could get all 6 for about $15 on eBay. So yeah, this was JBM. I'll probably do the 6-part other comic book issue series review coming up. But that's all for now. I hope you liked it. I'm out.